We continue now at the top of Daf Zayin and Beis in Meseches Taanis. This is Taanis Daf 7b. On the previous summer, Rabbi Yoshua ben Chananya said that to people who are not so good looking, those are the people who have true wisdom, because those are the people who can stay humble. And so the emperor said to Rabbi Yoshua ben Chananya, don't we find people who are good looking, who are learned? And so he said back, Ihavusanu, those people, if they would be not as good looking, Tfei Hava Gemiri, they'd be even more learned. Rashi over here says, Ihavusanu osam noim shem chacham, those chachamim who are good looking, if they weren't as good looking, Tvei Hava Gemiri, they would be even more learned. She efshar linoa lahashpil daito, because Rashi explains again, it's impossible for somebody who's good looking to be humble, uvali de shikha, and then that causes that the person forgets things. In other words, when the person is not humble, that causes that the Torah is not niskayim. And the Gemara continues, Davar Acher, another explanation, Mashlosha Mashkin Halalu. Why is it that Divrei Torah is compared to these three liquids, to water, to wine, and milk? Just like these three liquids, they nifsolin ela behesach hadas. They only spoil when a person stops paying attention to them. Af Divrei Torah, so too when it comes to Divrei Torah, ein mishtachin ela behesach hadas. Torah is forgotten when a person doesn't pay proper attention to it. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Chama, Rabbi Chanina says, Gadol Yom HaGeshamim Ki Yom Shenivru Shamayim Va'aretz. The day of the rain is as great as the day that the Shamayim Va'aretz, that the heavens and the earth were created. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, Harifu Shamayim Imalu Shchokim Yizlu Tzedek. Tiftach Horetz v'yifru yesha u'tzedakah tatzmiach yachad ani Hashem barasiv. It talks about Shamayim, it talks about Oretz, and it says barasiv created it. Barasim lo nemar. It doesn't say barasim in plural as if it's talking about the creation of the heavens and the earth. Ela barasiv, it says created it. So it seems to be that it's a reference to the rain, the creation of the rain, and saying that the rain is as great or perhaps greater than the creation of Shamayim v'Oretz. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Oshia says, Gadol Yom HaGeshamim, the day of the rain is so great, Sha'afilu Yeshua Para V'Rababo, that even salvation is fruitful and multiplies on the day of the rain. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, it's a pasuk we just quoted above, Tiftach Horetz V'Yifru Yesha, talks about the fact that again, salvation is going to be fruitful, that comes because of the rain. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Tanchem bar Chaniloi says, Ein HaGeshamim Yordim, Elem Kein Nimchulu Avonosein Shal Yisrael. The rain only comes if Klal Yisrael has been forgiven of its sins. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, Ratzisa Hashem Artzecha, Shavas Shavos Yaakov, Nosasa Avon Amecha Kisisa Kol Chatosim Sela. So it says exactly this idea that there was some kind of a forgiveness of sin, and it's talking about the fact, again, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu desires the land that the rain has come. Amar le Zeiri midihavas l'Ravina. Zeiri from the Havis said to Ravina, Atun mehacha masnisula. You learn it from that pasuk that you quoted above. That's where you learn this idea that again, when you have a mechila, that's when you have the rain. Anan mehacha masninala. But we learn it from the following pasuk, because the pasuk says v'ata tishma hashamayim v'solachta lechatas. Again, it says this idea that you've forgiven the sins. So since you've forgiven the sins, that has caused the rain to come. Amar Rabbi Tanchem b'reid Rabbi Chia ish Kfarako. Rabbi Tanchem, the son of Rabbi Chia ish Kfarako, said, Ein hageshamim netzarin. The rain is only held back. Elem kein nischayvu sonein shal Yisrael klaya. Only if you have a situation where the enemies of Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people, are chayiv to be destroyed. In other words, if the Jewish people are sinning so much that they become like, this is a euphemism, like the enemies of Klal Yisrael, the Klal Yisrael is sinning so much that they are chayiv klaya, chayiv destruction. So that's when the rain is held back. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, Tzia gam chom yigzulu mei sheleg shaol chatu. Talks about Shaol, like they sin to the grave, meaning destruction. When they sin to that extent, so then yigzulu mei sheleg, then already the snow, the rain, that's going to be taken away. Amar le Zeiri midahavas l'Ravina. Zeiri from the Havas said to Ravina, Atun mehacham asnisula. You learn from the pasuk that we just quoted. Anon mehacham asninala. But we learn from the following pasuk. V'yotzar es hashamayim v'avadetem mehera. Talks about the fact that the skies are going to be closed, the rain will be held back. V'avadetem mehera, and you'll be totally destroyed. You see this idea again of the fact that they are chayiv in destruction. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Chisda says, Ein hageshamim netzarin ela b'shvil bittul trumas u'maisros. The reason why rain is held back is because people don't give proper trumas and maisros. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, same pasuk is quoted above, Tzia gam chom yigzulu mei sheleg. So the Gemara says, "My mashma, what do you see from this pasuk? Anything that has to do with trumas and maasros." And so the Gemara says, "Taanit Daf Rabbi Shmuel." They taught in the yeshiva of Rabbi Shmuel, "B'shvil devarim shetzivisi eschem b'mos hachama," means to say chom, the things that you're supposed to do in the summer season, meaning trumas and maasros. V'lo asisem, and you didn't do it, so yigzulu mikem me'mesheleg b'mos hagashamim. Because of that, the snow or the rain is going to be held back in the rainy season. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi. Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi says, "Ein hagashamim ne'etzaron ela b'shvil mesaprei lashon hara." The reason why the rain is withheld is because of those who speak lashon hara. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, "Ruach tzafon techolel gashem upanim nizamim lashon seiser." Talks about lashon seiser, a reference to lashon hara, and again, that's a reference to the fact of the lack of rain. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Sala, Amar Rav Hamnuna. Rav Sala says in the name of Rav Hamnuna, Ein hagashamim ne'etzaron ela b'shvil azei panim. The reason why the rain is withheld is because those who are azei panim, those are people who are insolent. They don't have proper shame. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, Vayimnu revivim umalko shlohaya. Again, there wasn't rain. Umeitzach isha zona hayalach. Talks about the forehead of a woman who's a zona, and the pasuk goes on to say this exact idea that the person lacks the proper shame. V'yamar Rav Sala, Amar Rav Hamnuna, and Rav Sala says in the name of Rav Hamnuna, Kol adam sheyesh lo azus panim sof nichshal ba'avera. Any person who has azus panim, so in the end, he's going to do an avera, referring here specifically to averos that have to do with arayos. Shenemar, like this very pasuk says, what we just quoted, Umeitzach isha zona hayalach, you're going to have the isha zona with you, the prostitute is going to be with you. Rav Nachman Amar biyadua shenichshal ba'avera. Rav Nachman says one step further, it's 100% that the person will stumble in avera. Shenemar hayalach, because what does it say? It's past tense, as if the avera already happened. V'lo nemar yilach. It doesn't say it's going to happen. It's as if it already happens, meaning it's a certainty. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabba bar Rav Huna. Rabba bar Rav Huna says, Kol adam sheyesh lo azus panim, anybody who is azus panim, again, who's insolent, mutter likros o rasha, such a person, you can call that person a rasha. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, Heyez ish rasha b'fanav, again, talks about the azus panim, and also talks about the fact that this person is a rasha. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, mutter l'sanoso, it's even mutter to hate such a person. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, v'az panav yeshuna. The azpan of Yeshuna literally means changed, but al tikra Yeshuna el yisna. We shouldn't read it as Yeshuna, we should read it as Yisna, meaning it's permitted to hate such a person. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Katina says, Ein hagashamim ne'etzaron ela b'shvil bittul Torah. The rain is only held back because of bittul Torah. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, ba'atzaltayim yimach hamekara. It's because of the laziness that the rafters have sunk. And the Gemara now darshans b'shvil atzlos shahaya b'Yisrael, because of the laziness in Klal Yisrael shelo asku b'Torah, that they didn't learn Torah properly. So Nasa sono shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu mach. It's like HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. It's using a euphemism again, calling it the enemy of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but it refers to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's as if HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it causes HaKadosh Baruch Hu to sink. And the Gemara darshans further, v'yein mach elo ani. The word mach really refers to poverty. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, v'machu me'erkecha. The pasuk there is talking about a person who doesn't have enough money. The Gemara darshans further, v'yein mekara el HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When the pasuk says mekara, it's actually a reference to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, ha'mekara v'mayim al Yosef. That's talking about the one who lays the beams in the upper chambers in water. It's a reference again to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the Gemara continues, Rav Yosef Amar Mehacha. Rav Yosef says we can learn this idea from the following pasuk, again meaning this idea that bittul Torah causes the rain to be held back, because the pasuk says, "Ve'atol lo ro or boiru bashchokim v'ruach avra v'tatarim." Talks about the fact that they didn't see the light and that it's bright in the skies. So ve'ein or el Torah. What is this light? The light is a reference to Torah. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, "Kiner mitzvah v'Torah," or it says that Torah is considered like light, and that's exactly what the pasuk means. Boiru bashchokim. It's bright in the skies, meaning again the fact that there's no light, the fact that there's no Torah means it's bright in the skies and there's no rain. And the Gemara continues, Taanit Daf Rabbi Shmuel, they taught in the yeshiva of Rabbi Shmuel on this pasuk, Afilu b'shah sherakia nase behorin lahorit talu matar. What it means to say is, even in a situation when the sky is full of bright clouds, there are clouds that can bring down the dew and the rain, but ruach avra v'tatarim, the wind is going to come and blow them away, cleanse them away, so again, there's not going to be any rain. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Ami says, Ein hagashamim ne'etzaron ela ba'avon gazel. The rain is only held back because of the sin of stealing. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, al kapayim kisa or. It says that through his hands he covers up the light. What it means to say is ba'avon kapayim, with the sin of that which takes place with the hands. A person steals with his hands. Kisa or, that covers up the light. Reference to the fact that there's no rain. Vein kapayim el chamas. Kapayim refers to chamas. Chamas can mean violence, but again it can also mean like stealing. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, umin chamas asher b'chapayim, because of the chamas, because of the violence with their hands. Vein or elamater, and the word or refers to the rain, like we said. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, yafitz anan oro, the cloud of his light. Again, a reference to the cloud, to the rain, and it's talking about the light. My takante, and the Gemara says, what do you do to fix this situation? What do you do to bring the rain? Yarbe betfila, the person should increase in tefillah and davening. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, vayetzavo le b'mafgia. In the same area, it talks about mafgia. Vein pegia el tefillah. The word pegia is a reference to tefillah. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, v'ato al tispalel bi'ado ha'mazeh v'al tifgabi. It says, you don't daven for this nation, and tifgabi, don't tifgabi, is a reference to tefillah. V'yamar Rabbi Ami, and Rabbi Ami says, "My dichsiv." What does the pasuk mean when it says "Imkeyo habarzel v'hu lo panim kilkal"? What does that pasuk mean? The Gemara is going to explain. Imra'isa rakia shekeya kabarzel. It's referring to the sky that's like metal, meaning it looks like metal. Milahora talumater, meaning it looks like it's not going to bring down dew, it's not going to bring down rain. B'shvil ma'isa hador shein mekolkal. And the pasuk is saying that's because of the deeds of the people of the generation. Those deeds are corrupt. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, "V'hu lo panim kilkel." Again, that's a reference using the same word to the idea that the generation is corrupt. Mata kanton, what is the way to fix it? Yisgabru barachamim, again, you should daven for mercy. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, v'chayolim yigvar v'yisron hachshir chachma. Again, the idea that you're going to have gevura in rachamim, you're going to increase mightily your prayers for mercy. And the Gemara says, "Kol shekeinim huchshru ma'asein meikar." Now, certainly the rain would have come if from the beginning their deeds would have been proper. Then certainly the rain would come. And the Gemara continues. Reish Lakish Amar Reish Lakish says, "Im reisa Talmud." If a person sees a student, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Ches Amud Aleph.